This is a show about facing fear, unlocking courage, and taking action.
Courage isn't necessarily a daunting thing.
It's going to give you more purpose. It's going to give you more drive.
It feels like making a courageous decision is going to get you closer to who you aspire to be.
It's knowledge plus faith plus action equals courage.
I have never been afraid to say, like, I don't know how to do something, or teach me how to do that. And then I watch really intently and I look at really little things and I realize that really little tweaks can make a really big difference.
This is a long time coming, right? I mean, like, we've been talking about having you on the podcast. Let me back up. Hey, everybody. We've been talking about having this guest on the podcast for probably 15 months. And if you go back 15 months, but before 15 months-ish, I was introduced to my guest when she was on my listening lap in Europe. I mean, clearly this was a different time. God, maybe it was even longer.
It's been longer because, yeah, it's been way too long.
It's been long. Well, you can imagine my surprise. Just to tell you how long ago it's been. Back then, I had one-on-one interviews with leaders in Russia, in Amsterdam, in Paris, in Ireland. And then you can imagine my surprise. This was a virtual keynote for Kellogg's over in Europe. When I get to the UK and log on, and this woman sounds like me, talks like me. I'm like,
even
oh.
raspy like you.
And that was a long time ago. And
yeah.
You know, let's be real. Like, if you go back to then, I had a job to do with Kellogg's, and it was, you know, I was on a fact-finding mission, but we hit it off right then and there. Did my thing then, and we stayed in touch. And I forget, how did we even reconnect? Do you remember?
You had a friend that could use some coaching and was interested in moving overseas. So you connected her with me. And then once that was going really well, we connected back together, and you were saying, hey, I'm doing this kind of coaching pilot. Would you humor me and do it? You know, try this with me. And so that's kind of, I think, how it really started to snowball to where we're at today.
Which is a really good introduction to Nicole Zube, who is the Chief Human Resource Officer. I'm sure there's other fancy letters that come with CHRO, but you know, for being at a company now, and you're back here in the States, you're at SpartanNash, based in Michigan. Folks, if you don't know SpartanNash, it's not a small company. I mean, you guys are in 50 states, serving, I think, 2,100 independent grocery stores. You work with the military. I think you can keep me honest on these numbers. The numbers are not small.
$10 million company, retail, wholesale, in the Fortune 400, 17,000 associates. And we're super proud of our grocery stores that we have. We have about 147 of those. And we support independent retailers as a wholesaler, as well as the U.S. military. It's a great business. It's a great company. And I'm just super lucky to have the job I have and get to work with the people I do every day and make a difference in the communities that we serve.
This is very Nicole. This is not like Can Nicole. I know you pretty well because you've gone through this coaching program, and I want to start there. I want to thank you for humoring me all those years ago, because, you know, like I want to help people. You know, I'm sure you feel the same way. And
yes.
And I had just launched this program, and I wasn't looking to monetize it. I was just trying to help people get clear on who they are. And you're still, as you know, again, I have to be careful of this word because you are the CHRO of a non-small company, but you're always learning. You're still as coachable as you were, in my opinion.
Yes.
Then do you hear that from anybody else other than me?
That I'm coachable? Yes, I do. I hear that a lot. Yeah. I don't know what it is. I think it's just because I was an athlete growing up. Growing up, I played a lot of sports, and I also had a lot of adversity that had to come over in my life through different injuries, or maybe not getting the spot on the team that I wanted, or climbing my way to get that starting spot. And so I've always had to be figuring out, how am I tweaking what I'm doing to try to be performing at a certain level. And I've never been really uncomfortable saying what I don't know. Like, some people say that's like really courageous to say, I don't know, but I have never been afraid to say, like, I don't know how to do something, or teach me how to do that. And then I watch really intently, and I look at really little things, and I realize that really little tweaks can make a really big difference. And that's what I've just kind of noticed out of my life as an athlete. And then as you start to translate that into business and being a leader, or even being a parent, like I'm very fortunate to have 3 kids, and nobody gives you a manual on that either. So I think my 3rd kid is doing a lot better than my first. But yeah, you got to stay coachable, and got to glean, be open to that. I feel like the more open you are, the more you can grow, if you can keep your mindset that way.
So I want to honor the name of this podcast, which is the Courageous Podcast. So I want to make sure, and the audience knows this, and we even joked about it at the beginning, I don't send questions. It's a conversation, right?
I wanted questions, but no. You said, Nicole, we're just talking today, which is always easy to do.
Well, but it's still in the spirit of courage that, I want to honor the fact that there are people probably from SpartanNash that are listening. I also want to honor the fact that there are people from your last life at Kellogg's or P&G who are probably listening. But I also want to do the show right. And the way I would describe you, and we've now been together, like working together for 3 to 5 years ish.
I think getting pretty close to 5.
I mean, I would say you are and these are my words, so if I make you feel uncomfortable, these are my words.
Okay.
I see you as a forward-thinking leader. I think you're a competitor, and we're going to talk about that word,
Yeah.
because I think in the past that's been looked at almost as a negative, right? I think you are a true champion of diversity and inclusion and belonging, and I believe you're an empathetic leader. And so this is just, just from working with you and the way that you listen and the way that you lead your team. And obviously we've had a chance to design a number of summits for your team. So I get to see you lead that team, which is really cool to watch. But let's go back, in the spirit of the Courageous Podcast, this word competitive, right? Like Nicole Zube in her last life, and I'll go there. Like, I felt like you felt dinged a little bit for being competitive. Do I have to stop recording now? And like, you're going to tell me we can't talk about this, or like, is this a fact?
Yeah, I think until I got into the seat I am in now, I think my blessing and my curse was my competitiveness, my drive for excellence. And I think when you would get to know me as a person, you would get to see all the things, the really nice things you made me feel about myself around, empathetic and listener and caring and all of those sorts of things, because my competitiveness was usually against myself and my own expectations versus actually trying to outdo the person that was next to me. And sometimes I think it was perceived in that way. And that made it really hard. And as I've grown to become an executive leader somewhere else, when you're a senior leader in an organization, or you're in a middle manager position in an organization, it's super challenging because you have to manage up, down, and across 360 around you. And a lot of times the focus is on up and down, and not as much across your peers who you are working with. And a big thing that I have learned is, if you don't care who gets the credit, if you're doing the best job, the cream will always rise to the top. But you got to bring those people that are next to you with you on that journey. And that's one of the things I learned. And I didn't do that so well in some cases. And from learning from that, I think it's made me a much better teammate, a much better leader, and a much better coach to my own team and other people that I coach, to say, yeah, that's why you are working in a silo with the people who are next to you, or that's why you aren't developing relationships, because you're being viewed in that way. I didn't see that at the time. And I've now actually realized that that's something that is really powerful, and not to make myself feel bad for that, but to say, how do I harness that? And how, when I also see that in other people, I can figure out how to channel that in the right way. I wish I would have learned a little earlier in my life.
I'm eye rolling a little bit here. And then again, I have to be, I got to be careful because I know you so well. It's like I'm trying to stay in my lane, but you might be a little hard on yourself here. Let's be real.
Oh, yeah. Always been. Always been.
But as someone that's fluent in metaphor, do you find yourself using sports metaphors all the time and I'm saying I definitely use them, but do you find yourself, is that an easy place for you to turn to when you think about this team that you're on now?
I don't know if I use a lot of sports metaphors, but I can think about, I do know from my past, I think about team. We're in a team sport. We're not in an individual sport. And everybody in a team sport has a role that they play. And if you're on a basketball team, what are you going to be, the person bringing the ball down the court, or are you the person that's shooting the threes? Are you the one that's in the paint? You need to have people that have all of those certain types of skills. You don't just need one type of skill or one type of way of doing things. And so I do think that I do use those analogies when I think about building really great teams, or starting to think about the dynamics of the cultures that we're in, and where do we maybe not have the right teammates or the right capabilities, and how do we start to build those skills. So yeah, it's my job to figure out, how do we build within the organizations we're in those star players. But you can't have a team full of all stars. You need to have a team that has the right balance of styles, personalities, capabilities to get there. And I do think a lot about that. And I'm very fortunate, because in our business here, we're very diverse in terms of, we have retail stores, we have people that work with independent customers, we work with the military, and there isn't a one size fits all approach for everything. And so I get to kind of think and strategize with different leaders within the organization on how do they do all the things I just talked about, so that we can thrive and grow as a company. I also get to do that across the executive leadership team, and partner with our CEO to do that. And I work with some really, really great teammates that all have different things they bring to the table. And, we get to work together on that. And I kind of get to be a coach in that way, and get to coach people at a really high level is super exciting. So I really enjoy doing that too.
I mean, you mentioned this already, but you're kind of playing one game, but it's like there's two teams. Like it's like you've got like a full court game going over here with this is the first, I think, C-suite you've been on, right?
It is. Yeah.
And then at the same time as you're in this pickup game, that's competitive as all hell, you're also in this other competitive game, right? And I'm curious, since you brought up basketball. Okay, if you were,
I should have brought up volleyball. I don't know, but I just felt like basketball was easier to talk about.
All right. Well, I think you won't lose us by going basketball, right? So
yeah,
let's say, where are you on the, and humor me for a minute. So let's say you're starting five on the executive team, and I know the executive team, they're like, there's more than five, but let's say you're starting five. What position are you playing in that game? And then as you think about your CHRO team, what position are you playing in that game?
I think it's the same position, but the tactics are a little bit different. I think I'm the coach on both of the teams, because it's very challenging in that I am privy to a lot of information in terms of like what's going on within the business, but then also working very closely with the CEO. And then I work very closely with the executive. And so I'm kind of somebody that's always in the middle, and I'm having to balance both of those two things while trying to make sure that I operate with integrity and honesty, and in a way that's very much like a mirror to other people, what they need to do and want to go forward. And sometimes I have information I can't do anything with. So I have to be a little bit of a steel trap. So it's a very tough role to be in my seat, because I have to have trust across everyone, and I have a lot of information that can't be shared. So it's a little bit different role as a coach, because I'm trying to say, how do I think I'm going to help that person in their role be successful and have us be successful as a company, not just within my area, but the entire entity. Within my own team, I'm probably a little bit more though of a player coach. I'm in it more. Like I'm actually like passing the ball in a lot more during practice. I'm standing more side by side. I'm more showing versus more demonstrating and challenging. And so the way I go about coaching is very different. But I think I'm the coach in both of those environments. And really for me, and this leads back to who I am as a person, I just want to see people shine. I honestly just want to see our organization shine. I want to see our individual shine, whether you're on the executive team or you're on my own team. I just want to have you live up to whatever your best potential is and be that. And so however I can be part of that, that's where I want to be.
So my first thought was, oh man, I should have had Tony on speed dial for this one, just to be like, no, Tony is the coach. Like, I'd love to hear if Tony would say he's the coach. And then I would also think Tony would actually say, no, Nicole's right. She's the coach.
No, he would.
Yeah, we might have to like call him, cut him into this episode and get his take on this. Maybe we'll do that. All right. If you weren't the coach, let's say Tony's like, I'm Nicole, respectfully, I hear you, but I'm kind of trying to have the whistle and run the practice. Then where do you go?
I mean, I think that it's weird because I'm not, but I think I'd be the center in the paint. I'd be getting the rebounds. I'd be getting I'd be getting the missed shots and picking them up. I'd be passing it back to the person that's taken the shots. I mean, I think that's what I would be on the executive team. On my own team, I probably would be the point guard, starting to call the shots, looking out for what's coming and anticipating what's next. So you're right. It's different within each of the teams if I couldn't be the coach.
I mean, wow, couldn't be more opposite. It's just cleaning up the junk underneath right in the paint versus communicating and pick and rolling and setting all the. Well, look, this is the first time you've been able to play on this C-suite team. Someone who's listening is probably on their journey. They're maybe, again, they're at the company and they're thinking about how do they advance. Maybe it's somebody who's just like a high potential somewhere else that's wants to know how you get on in a C-suite, like, and looks forward to that day. Can you go back to origin story? Like, let's just do a few minutes. How'd you get into this? Did you always know you were going HR? Like, and then what were the steps to here?
So I kind of told everybody I was a college athlete. I played volleyball at Northern Kentucky University, which was incredible. And I didn't really know what I wanted to be, but I knew that I didn't want any day to ever be the same. So I thought I wanted to go and be a physical therapist, but I actually decided to go into business. And my advisor said, you would be a really great fit with Procter & Gamble, huge company, very competitive company, very great operations company, an amazing company at developing leaders. And so I went and tried out for a co-op or an internship program there. And I happened to get placed in the human resources department within the recruiting function. And I do keep talking about being an athlete, I think, because being an athlete, there are times that I was, one of the best on the team. There are times that I was not, but I learned that everybody plays a role on the team. And one thing that I learned at NKU was that you're only good as your weakest link within the team. And so we used to have to do these crazy sprints, and we had a few teammates that were terrible, and we had to keep going even when our worst player wasn't able to deliver against the expectations. And that actually played out really nicely for me within business. So as I grew my career, my 8.5 years at Procter & Gamble, started to be able to work on a big acquisition called Gillette, which is one of the biggest acquisitions they've had. And I got to be part of that. And also got to be part of some divestitures we did with Folgers Coffee, for example. And after about 5 years, they said, we think you'd be a really great business partner. Would you want to move to Boston, Massachusetts? So here I am, this Midwest nice girl, moving to an acquired business as one of the first people on the ground in the East Coast, which is very different. and with no experience doing that job. And I said, yeah, I'll do it. So I moved there. I was in a manufacturing site outside of Boston, Massachusetts. I was one of 4 women within the site where we made shave gels, shave prep, and some hair care products, and a really cool little thing called Fill Flow that you put in the bottom of your razor. It's like a little lubricating strip. I was there where we made all of that in an aerosol factory. And it was there where I really learned the value of connecting in with people and understanding the work that people really do. I had the opportunity to work on the line, to go through continuous improvement, to learn about safety, to learn about driving a culture in a manufacturing organization and in an acquired organization. And it was just an incredible experience. And I learned a lot because I didn't know anything. And then after I was there for about 8.5 years, it's pretty much a company that you stay at for forever or you leave. And I ended up making a choice to leave and join Kellogg. And when I joined Kellogg, they were going through a really huge transformation. And in the 11 years I was there, I had 9 different assignments where I supported the chief customer officer, the chief financial officer, the chief communications officer. I was in center roles leading talent practices for North America and led a lot of big restructurings for Kellogg during that time. And I had always dreamed of having an international assignment. And right after I had my 3rd child, I had a great opportunity to go over to England. And that was in 2019. And I had this really beautiful dream of what it was going to be like to live in Europe. But then this thing called COVID happened. And that really was something I learned a lot through that time. I had responsibility for supply chain. So we had key workers in 14 different countries that we were navigating. And I also had some responsibility for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that was a really impactful thing in my life because it was the first time in business that I really felt really different. And it forever changed the way I viewed the world in terms of how people view Americans, in terms of people asking you questions that they think are really nice. But things like, they would ask me, well, where do you live? And I would say, I live in Manchester. And then they'd hear my accent and say, no, really, where do you live? And I started to imagine myself in the shoes of people that probably experience that every single day. And so I was forever changed by that. And my children and my husband were changed by just the cultural change that we had there. And so anyway, I got to come back in 2022 and found out that Kellogg was looking to spin off some of their businesses. And I was part of that. And I was learning a ton when the great opportunity came here at SpartanNash. And I just kind of felt like it was right for me to make a move and to learn a new industry and to learn from a different leader and to work in an environment where there's more frontline workers. I feel like I can make an impact in communities. And so I kind of made the jump. But what I would say throughout my career is that I always just tried to maximize every single experience that I could get and diversify those experiences that I could get along the way. I took the jobs that nobody wanted to take. I took the scary projects that were really messy. I took risks, I think, to pick up things. And I just believed in myself and surrounded myself with really great teammates that were different and that could help me. There's a lot of people who get to these positions and they say like, oh, I never thought that I would be here. Or I always dreamed, like, once I started getting into business, I knew this is what I wanted to do. When my husband asked to marry me, my dad asked him, are you willing to move to another country and will you support Nicole's career? Like, they knew like this is what I wanted to do. And there were blessings and curses with that, because when you put that out there, some people could be intimidated by it. And some people were inspired to say, like, I want to be able to help you. But I think putting it out there in the world is how you move things forward. I think being honest with yourself and honest with others about what you want to achieve, and then putting in the hard yards to do it. That's how you get here. Staying hungry, staying curious. I think that's how I've made it.
Do you take this woman to having to hold So even if she wants to go overseas, I do.
Yeah, yeah, he had to say yes. So and that's why I was like, oh my goodness, I must be really committed to this thing. So
Well, I mean, look, this maybe is an odd way to do this, but like, I also want to not only give a shout out to Al for the journey, right, which is your husband, but
yeah,
I want to give a shout out to Anne Marie Kiernan and David
she's
Lawler,
she's awesome.
right, because they're the ones that brought me into the Kellogg's family, and if I don't meet them, I don't meet you. And then, look, it's cool to hear you are a lifelong learner, and you've stayed curious through this crazy adventure that you've gone on already.
Yeah.
Uh, I I just watched a movie with my kids who are 9 and 11. Have you seen this movie or heard of this movie called Stargirl?
No.
Okay, put it on the list.
All right.
Friendly, family friendly watch. And the main character at one point she says, "You're not happy because you win because you're happy." A lot of times when I think about courage, there might be fear and you go through it. And when you do, and you finally move to that new country or join a C suite for the first time or have the courage to know it's time to move on, right?
Mhm.
Like it's the courage to be happy. And is it the pursuit of happiness? Or maybe it's the pursuit is happiness, right? And you've lived that. So I'm curious in your pursuit of happiness or your pursuit to be happy, as you think about where you are right now and like what you're building there. I mean, come a long way in what are we, 3 years? 2 years?
2 years. It'll be 2 years next month. Yeah.
So are you happy?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm made for this to be doing what I'm doing. Like it's my dream. It's actually better than it's actually better than my dream could have been. Like if I wish when we started our journey 5 years ago, it would be crazy to know that this is the conversation we're having now, all the fears I had then and what I'm doing today. But I believed in myself. I believed in who I am. I believed in what I could bring. And I believed in the people around me who were championing it. And I have a lot of support to do what I do every single day. But I also knew that my family is really important to me, and that getting closer to my parents, but from a geography standpoint, getting some more stability for my kids in terms of like not moving every 2 to 3 years is something that was important for them. And so we're just at a spot where I feel like we're prepared. We're finally flowing on all cylinders. And now I've had, 2 cycles in my role as well, which is giving me a lot more confidence. But there definitely are the times still where I have those flutters in my tummy, or I try to be a duck and my feet are going really quickly underneath the water and I'm trying to figure out what to do because there's still lots of things I haven't experienced yet. But I think, knowing your values, knowing where you're coming from can really help anchor you and really make sure you're making the right choices, even in those moments where you're not entirely sure.
I mean, you're sort of weaving in, my special language here, right? Like you talked about fears, you talked about values. These aren't throwaway ideas. And,
Mm.
Maybe you can humor us a little bit on, I mean, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, your fears were different. Like you're different. You're different today than you were.
Oh yeah.
And I'm different, right? So like when we first met, can you share a little bit of what you thought your fears were then? Which I think you've overcome a lot of them, right?
Yeah, a lot of my fears then were about my dream, like where I am now, and actually trying to understand if I was ready for it. If I had roadblocks, like would I be able to overcome? Would I be able to overcome those? Making sure, like just testing if where I wanted to go and who I am is really true, and more fear around that. And what's really interesting is all of those fears have been overcome. And, all the things that I was aspiring to be, I think that I now am living. And so now there's this challenge that's in front of me that I've been working on with you, which is where do I go next? And how do I continue to keep growing to be the best version of myself? But really, it's not about myself as much anymore. it's more about how am I giving back to the world, the people that I'm with, the communities that I'm in, my family, in a way that's right for me and gives me the purpose and the meaning to live every day that I have in this life. And so I feel really blessed in terms of like, if something were to ever happen to me, today, tomorrow, I feel like I've given it my all. I've given my best shot at the days I've had here, and I'm excited for the ones that are to come. And I'm just grateful for all the experiences, the good ones and the bad. But I'm grateful for the growth that I've had and how I've taken my fears that were so inward and have figured out a way to bring that back outward. And I think in a way that's a lot more positive.
And I think it's normal.
Yeah.
Like it's
Is it
just sort of
age?
like,
But that's what I don't want to admit. Like, is it age? I'm not ready for that.
I like to say it's stage over age,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Stage over age. And I know we've at some point on one of the lunch and learns, I know I shared my S's, where like there's these 5 S's. Like there's the first S in life is shoved, like life is shoved at you. And a parent's belief is your belief, and like what they think you think. And then as you get a little bit older and maybe you get into your teens or you're going off to college, then it moves into survival mode. And it's like you are a duck. You're just trying not to drown, and you're just trying to get through it. And as you go through these S's, eventually you get up to like success mode, and the world starts to slow down a little bit. And I think even in your last life there was success mode, but there wasn't soul mode, which is sort of it really is the me to we. It's like, how do it's not legacy for the ego, but it's like my soul is involved when I'm elevating others. I know because we work together, the people first is truly what SpartanNash stands for. And it isn't just, I think a lot of companies, they've got language and it's never operationalized. You guys are truly doing this. You're truly living people first. And
Yeah.
maybe you can share a little bit about how I think about your newer fears. It's almost all about unlocking others is what it feels like. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, I think we just did a really helpful exercise to start to think about how do I take my values, which are kind of growth, grit, gratitude, and greatness, and what are my fears that are related to that, and how do I kind of move through those given, my values and what I know about myself. And a lot of it is around, am I leading in a way that is going to unlock the greatness in my team and in this organization? Am I building the capabilities in others? Am I investing my time on what matters most? I have a lot of perseverance and hard work and grit and things that are inside of myself that can only get you kind of so far. And so, how can I make sure that I'm really focused on the things that are the most important? And that's really where my fears lie today. And I'm going to have to keep sharpening my saw and making sure I have the right capabilities. As the role of the CHRO is it's very, very interesting. It started out as, personnel, we go way back in the day. And, then it kind of became, now it's human capital management and our things that we review at a board. And not only am I being asked questions about, do you have the right succession plan for the CEO? But I'm getting asked questions about, these things are going on socially and politically, and how are we evolving, and what's the company's stance on this? I mean, I not only have to have great financial acumen and business acumen, I have to have, social and political acumen. And so this role is continuing, to evolve. And there's a lot of research that's out there saying that obviously when you look at the C-suite roles, you have your CEO, you have your CFO, but very close behind that, chief people officer, CHRO role is such a critical role in terms of driving the culture and the performance. And so, Nicole, in terms of that high bar, I'm trying to say, how do I set the right bar here at SpartanNash and demonstrate that and continue to have the right skills myself so that I can build that in other people. So that's a lot of what I'm working through at the moment myself.
You kind of rattled through your values pretty quickly, and they've changed since we've started.
Yeah.
Can you kind of give me just like quick note on each?
Like on each of my values that matter to me. Yeah. So, I mean, I really have started to think about what I know means the most to me, and what came through first. And we've been talking about this the whole time was around growth, which is around continuously being like curious, coachable, be a learner, and making sure that I'm staying relevant. But that's also what I look for in others, which is, people who constantly know you need to continuously improve and you can't stay stagnant. And the way that businesses and the way that families continue to evolve is through growth. And so that's so important to me. So my first has been around growth. My second has been around grit. And it's really been about me trying to figure out how do I continually build that we can get through it muscle and capability within others and within future leaders, and having that skill, because the grind of a C-suite role and the grind of a Fortune 400, it never stops. It never sleeps. And so you have to be able to get through the ups and downs and the good and the bad and still have the stick to itness to be able to get through it. So grit was my second. My third was really around gratitude. Like, I genuinely feel grateful for the opportunities that I have to be in the position that I am at, for the life that I have. And I think when you lead with that, you really see the world in a different place. And so I want to make sure that my people, when I say people, it's my work people and my family, know how truly grateful I am and how much I care. And that really does come through in not just my words, but in my actions and how I show up. And then my fourth was around greatness, which links to, leadership has always been a core fundamental thing from when I started early days at Procter & Gamble. We believed there that every single person was a leader, whether you're an individual contributor or you are leading a huge business. You had to show leadership, and you did that through leading through example and doing that in a way that isn't mediocre, but is really, really great. And so I continue to have, a high bar for, just doing the best you possibly can and continue to be great. So growth, grit, gratitude, and greatness, 4 G's, I will say, are my values.
So when you think about, thank you for sharing those, by the way. And it's kind of cool to sit back, and I feel like you're at peace
Yeah.
with this version of you. Is that fair?
Yeah, my version of me 5 years ago, I think, was a lot more worried about what I needed to put down my values that I thought other people would want to see, or how would that be perceived. And I just feel that I've now kind of grown into understanding who I am and also who I'm not. And I really am at peace around that.
All right. So knowing these the 4 G's,
Yes.
you're in the paint with the C-suite. What do you want them to take away from these 4 G's from you? You can only pick one thing.
It would be greatness, I think. The reason I think it would be greatness is because I think we need to continue to shoot for the moon. And so we can land amongst the stars. And I think we need to continue to make this organization great, that each person within our executive team needs to be doing their absolute best. And they are, by the way. That's what I am grateful for. And I'm here to support that greatness for them, that they can be. So I think it would be greatness. And it's important that I'm continuing to make sure that we're pushing to continue to have, growth in our organization and help them realize how they do that. So I think we should stick with greatness, and that's what I can help with the team.
And then your team, which G pops?
For me, it's more around growth in that respect. So I would say what pops with my team is around ensuring they continue to stay curious, continue to stay coachable, continue to learn, making sure that they know that they have a path here, that it's not just about, coming in every day and doing the bare minimum of their job, but, giving it all they got And when they do that, that they're going to have a great opportunity, not just for a great job, but a great career. And that's important to me, that my team knows that. It's important to me that our entire organization knows that. I mean, I've been here for 2 years now, and a big piece of what I've rolled out pieces around our philosophy towards people as it relates to their careers. You know, we say we create meaningful experiences and careers for a better life. And everything that I'm doing here with my team is around people getting those experiences they need to grow their career, to have great leaders who can coach and develop them. And I've also embedded things with my team through competencies around, you know, here are the key things we need to see every single associate in our company do. And so I've tried to bring in a lot of structure to the organization so that people can grow and people can make sure that they see themselves here, not just for the short term, but for the long term. And so that they're growing not only in their technical skills, but in their leadership skills as well. So there's a lot of infrastructure and things I've tried to bring here to SpartanNash that I'm pretty proud of.
We mentioned at the top of the hour that, you know, maybe past Nicole Zube's, or maybe it's still this Nicole Zube, you can be hard on yourself. Which of the G's do you need to hear?
I mean, I think it's just anchoring back to that gratitude that I genuinely feel, and making sure that I'm grateful for all the things that I am and not all the things that I'm not. And one of the best advice that I have heard through a lot of different summits, and I get great opportunities to sit on panels and get asked these questions that sometimes these are pinch me moments, because I was on the other side thinking one day I would love to be that person. And now I am that person that people are seeing. And it's like humble pie to experience. Some advice that somebody gave me is, you know, talk to yourself like you're talking to a friend. And sometimes that voice that you talk to yourself with really isn't that kind. And if you would treat yourself like a friend, imagine what would be said. And so I try to use that to help myself when I know I'm being a little bit tough on myself. And that really has seemed to help.
Well, sadly, Nicole Zube, we're coming down the home stretch here. So I got two more questions for you. First one is the competitor in you. When you think about the most courageous thing you're working on at work right now, or maybe there's a place where deep down inside, you know, shoot, I should be pushing harder on X. What comes to mind?
Driving a culture where people first is lived every single day is very challenging, and that Nicole isn't everywhere being the leader. The executive team isn't in every single crevice of where we do work and every single interaction that happens. And so in making sure we continue to role model those behaviors, but then drive those in the organization to every leader and to every associate, so it shows up. That is something that is a big, hairy, audacious goal, to say that everywhere in this company, no matter if you're a cashier working in a retail store, or a truck driver driving a truck, or an accountant sitting in the corporate environment, that you are in an environment where you can thrive, do your best work, and be treated in a way in which you feel like you belong for 17,000 people. That is something that is very challenging, because there are a lot of dynamics that come into play as it relates to the work environment, the leader that's there, the subcultures that exist. And I'm super passionate about finding a way in which we do that in a really consistent way here. And this company is over 100 years old. It took over 100 years to build this company, and it's going to take many years to transform the culture to truly be that in every single place we do business. And so that's what I'm committed to. And that's something that is really, really challenging, but I know that's something that we're up for. And I'm excited to think about what every day brings and every year will bring on this journey. And I think we'll get even better as we continue to focus on the leaders we have here, bringing in the great talent that we have and the leadership team that we have. But that's a real challenge.
Well, we've been with Nicole Zube. We've been talking growth. We talked grit. We talked gratitude. We talked greatness. We talked being a center. We talked very little about being a volleyball, point guard, all the things. I'm excited to see what the next 3 years looks like for you and the growth that happens on your team. My team is very honored to get to play a small role in that, to be on your hip as a consigliere when needed. And we've like even the executives, it's been awesome to get to know how real everybody is. Just the interactions that we've had with them. No one's trying to big league anybody. Everyone's just trying to keep it, as you said, people first. So, well, I'll be interested to see how your fears change. And Tony, are you the coach or is Nicole the coach? We're going to get to the bottom of this one. Nicole Zube, thanks so much for joining. Any last all right, coach, what pep talk do you have for us before we go back out on the pitch?
Well, I first would just like to say, obviously it's been an absolute amazing honor to just, one, start out as a client, and then two, become a friend, and three, be able to have you come in and really help me on my journey here and the Courageous team here. It's been just absolutely amazing and priceless for me as a leader. If I had to leave something to the crowd that's listening, I would just say to dream big. I really believe in big dreams and putting your dreams out there. No dream is too small to put out into the world, and go for it. And you only got one life to live, and you might as well give it your best shot. And I would just encourage people to dream big and continue to grow and push yourself, and great things to happen to those people that put in the effort. It's the worst when people are saying, like, I can't believe this didn't happen to me. But if you don't put in the effort, you don't put in the work, you don't put in the time, and you don't think about how to get there, that's not going to happen for you. So don't sit back, or ride and be a driver in your life. Would be my advice.
You're not happy because you win because you're happy, right? So
Exactly.
The pursuit of happiness, the pursuit is happiness. Thanks, Nicole.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Courageous Podcast. If you enjoy the show, don't forget to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts so more people can find us. See you again next week.